So that's now a new terminology that the government wants to introduce as from 2021-2022 financial year as we try to manage what is now a worrying trend in terms of our debt levels in the country. So let's define what they really want to achieve with this and ask the questions that we need to ask around that. But before that, let's look at exactly what our public debt, but looking at it from 2015 in those quarters, has been all to where we are right now, which leads to this conversation of having a sinking fund. And we're going to define it and see exactly what is in operation right now. And that is also going to form a talking point as we continue with talking issues economy this week. So now, if you look at that, again, you can go back to 2013 and you'll find the same graph that has been with us all the way up to where we are right now. And those numbers from quarter one of 2020 are bound to even jump further to quarter two and quarter three, because we do know the coronavirus pandemic is exactly what pushed us to these levels that we're talking about this morning. Now, the government in 2021 and 2022 is saying they want to introduce a sinking fund that is going to address those maturing debt facilities or loan facilities that they are forced to take instead of relying on loans to repay these maturing facilities. So what has been our annualized interest payments so far on our debts? Let's look at that on an annual average interest payments up to where we are right now so far. And if you look at that, then you can actually see on exactly where we are in terms of domestic and foreign. So domestic makes sense really, because majority of the debt that we take in the country has been also seemingly on the rise as well. Because if you look at where we are right now, you can see that the graph is corresponding in every of the debt that we're taking in the country in terms of domestic and foreign as well, all the way up to where we are in 2019-2020. You can see exactly where we are, and this is bound to jump because again Kenya is gone into more borrowing as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. Fine. So now they define the sinking fund as this, even as we continue to look at those annual average interest payments on a debt. This is how they define it. That before this, all the debt has been paid from consolidated fund services. But now, they want to actually go and introduce that sinking fund under Regulation 206 Cap 1 of the Public Finance Management, all right, 2015, that allows Treasury Secretary Ukur Yatani to create a sinking fund for redemption of loans. And they're saying that this is going to be publicly funded in the sense that it shall be local here within. So now the questions that we're asking around this area is that, wow, if indeed this is as a result of the dwindling collections that we've seen in the country. Now we do know all the way up to as from July to 31st of December, we did know that we did miss that collection by 107 billion. Then where is this money going to come from? And that's exactly what most analysts are asking. Where is this money going to come from if indeed we are borrowing because that money is not available locally? Where is that money going to come from? Where are you going to ring fence these funds from? Because we've seen exactly what the government has also been doing over the recent days is pretty much relying on the rich parastatals in the country to fund your budget. But if indeed that money is not there, then where are you going to get this money that is going to go into the sinking fund? Are we going to borrow so we can put money into the sinking fund? Because locally, if you look at where we are, then that money is not there. All right, let's take a look then at what is our debt by holder, that's domestic debt, because then this is going to come from the local sources. Okay, let's look at that as well. And you're going to say from there that, well, banking institutions are the ones that account for 53% of that debt that we hold locally. And then if we look at where we can also get this money from, it is also from pension funds, which is 30.32%. So when Ukuru Yatani is saying that it's going to create this sinking fund, then the question is going to be, are we going to see an increase in local debt? And what sort of organization, therefore, are we going to see around this area in terms of domestic debt? Are we going to see this percentage for banking institutions increase, which is essentially, again, debt when you're defining domestic debt by itself? Or are we going to see them go further into these pension funds, because the two actually account for 80% of domestic debt holding as of 31st December 2020. Now, those are the questions that we are asking this morning. That yes, indeed, it looks like a noble idea, but where is this money going to come from? KRA and its collections. Let's look at what our tax performance was in the entire of 2019-2020 financial year. All right, and as we look at that data for you, we've got a headline that you're also waking up to this morning in terms of the way that KRA is also talking about how they're going to approach 2021 and 2022. Now, looks as if our biggest hit came from a domestic VAT, and we do know why, that we want that is at negative 7%, and domestic excise was also down negative 6%, and oil and fuel taxes at negative 1.4%. We do know exactly why. Payee as well came down to 2% performance, and withholding tax as well 18.29%. Good. Because while we were cushioning the economy from the effects of the coronavirus pandemic, which saw a hit on corporation tax, VAT, pay-as-you-earn, all the way from March up to December 2020. Now, KRA is also saying that, well, this year it might actually increase its tax collection numbers, because they're saying, well, they are going to look into stalled cases that are going to give them 133 billion in terms of the money that they think they're getting from wealthy individuals and firms within the country. Now, they've entered into a deal with Treasury, but they're saying they're going to push the settling of the cases through the tribunal that exists within KRA, that is the dispute tribunal, that is going to say them realize this 133 billion shillings in 50 days. And this, they say, is going to unlock over 200 billion of the stalled cases that are believed to be sitting within that tribunal. Now, General Giving Bubu told Parliament that they had witnessed a rise in the number of taxpayers challenging notices for unpaid taxes. Now, last year there was this bigger headline that we did hear from KRA that they had identified 1,309 firms and people that they identified who will be put back on the tax payment umbrella. So one has been the exchequer revenue again all the way to July as well. Maybe this is going to unlock what their fortunes have been in, or what they're going to be, especially as we come to the end of the financial year 2020 and usher in 2021, 2022. BAT. If you look at what has been their recent performance, then you will say that ones that are standing out, one of the few. And you're going to count Safaricom, EABL, and BAT as the three firms that have been contributing to over 90% of the trading that we've already seen at our local booth here, all the way from January up to where we are right now. Good. Which is also attributed to what the share price has been, which has been the biggest so far. And BAT Kenya, followed by East African Breweries, and then Safaricom PLC comes in as one of those stable stocks on the bourse as we start 2021. Now, if you look at what their performance indicators have been, also they've been really good as well, also buoyed by the reduction in corporation tax and VAT as well, which also saw them really get into those healthy numbers for the entire of last year, which is why their profits actually did jump 42%, which wasn't unheard of within a period when every sector and industry within the country was crying foul of the effects of the coronavirus pandemic. Now, the biggest announcement when they were giving us this results this year is they said they were in a negotiation with the government to get back to licensing the nicotine pouches. Now, remember, last year, Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe had filed the Poisons Board in the country because they had not classified the nicotine pouches as tobacco products, which will see them regulated under the tobacco law. Meaning that if they are placed on that similar counter as tobacco products and regulated under the tobacco law, then they're going to get into restricted advertising, number one, and use and taxation as well. Now, remember last year, Kagwe, who had accused the Pharmacy and Poisons Board of flouting tobacco control laws that saw the pouches licensed for sale in the country, meaning that if we're going to see the nicotine pouches come into the country, which was the biggest move from BAT as well, then they also have to contend with either coming back as well with this latest announcement from the Ministry of Health, or hold on and continue further negotiations because they wanted to come back under a different classification. Whether this is going to change the announcement, we're still waiting to see, and whether this is going to change the investor stance on that particular stock, it's still a wait and see as well.